Today, we're going to be looking at 1-star whiskey reviews. Let's get into it. Hello everyone, welcome back to Brad's Bourbon Reviews. I'm Brad, and today we're going to be taking a look through some 1-star whiskey reviews. Now, I didn't leave these reviews, as you'll see as we get into the video. These are user-generated reviews. These were posted publicly on Total Wine's website. So what I did was I went on whiskeys that I think wouldn't be rated very highly, and I hit the little star system and filtered everything to be 1 star. Some of these are hilarious, some of these are confusing, but they are all entertaining. So let's go ahead and get into the first one here. First one comes from Josh Doggett 1934. 1 star, not a chew toy, is the title of this review. It was written a year ago. He says, I purchased this thinking it was the Bad Spaniel's chew toy. I very disappointed to receive a bottle of sickeningly sweet whiskey. Hey buddy, you went to Total Wine's website and bought a bottle of Jack Daniels. Did you have any clue when you were looking at it and said it was a 750 milliliter bottle and that it wasn't a chew toy? That is 100% your fault. I don't know why you go to an alcohol retailer for a chew toy. Move on to the next one. Next one up here is for Wolcott. He said, this is the worst whiskey I have ever tasted. This whiskey is awful. I honestly want to pour the rest of it into the sink. It tastes like raw dough and flour. How is that possible? I do not know. I don't either. I feel like I've had this at some point. When I first got into whiskey, I went to Total Wine with my fiance and we did like a whiskey tasting class there. It was actually really beneficial, but the spirits that they gave you as part of the tasting were all really bad. For the most part, I think there was like 1 or 2 that were like, okay. Those tend to be not great. Total Wine does this thing with their Spirits Direct where like if you ask them for a good whiskey or recommendation, they'll point you in the direction of one of their Spirits Direct or whatever it's called. And they usually are pretty bad. They're usually pretty young, and that's how they can get away with selling them for as cheap as they do. Honestly, don't ask people at Total Wine for help. And if you notice when you're in the store, they will have like, Chet picked this bottle. It's always some in-house brand that they're pushing, and most of it's pretty terrible. Moving on to the next one. This is also another review of the Wolcott whiskey from not Tom Brady. That's what Tom Brady would say. With a 1-star review 2 months ago, it says, last time I trusted Total Wine workers to make a new recommendation. See, told you. This one was one of the worst bourbons I have tried. Not good neat, on the rocks, or in a cocktail. 1 star is too high of a rating. That's savage. Yeah, I wish I'd have read that again. I got these about 2 weeks ago, so I don't remember them all exactly. But yeah, that is completely true. Don't trust people at Total Wine. Moving on to the next one. This comes from Matty Boomstick with a review titled Toilet Water, and he is talking about Basil Hayden. He said, this is by far the worst bourbon on the market. You bought it because the bottle was pretty, and you know it. Jim Beam should be embarrassed. I bought a bottle of this and couldn't drink it. I can drink anything. This, brutal. I couldn't give it away. Went down the sink. He got actually, shockingly, 44 down likes on this one. That's a lot. That's the most I've seen out of any of them so far, at least that I've noticed. First off, it is not the worst bourbon on the market. Is it great? No. Is it overpriced for what it is? Yes. It's not the worst thing on the market. Trust me. 2, I don't ever really hear anyone saying that Basil Hayden's bottle is like exceptionally beautiful or anything like that. So I don't know if I'm just not clued in on that or if, or what that's about. But I've never heard anyone talk about the bottle being like aesthetically pleasing. They should be embarrassed of this. Beam's 8-star. I haven't had this yet. And very rarely do I judge something without trying it. But this is a 40% alcohol, 20% whiskey, 80% neutral spirit. I'm going to judge it before I try. This is what they should be embarrassed. This is, I'm sure, way worse than Basil Hayden. Moving on to the next one. This comes from Dan Tree with a 1-star review titled Bottle. 3 years ago, ordered Jim Beam bourbon today, as I often do, but surprise, surprise, it's now in a plastic bottle. Only cheap bourbon comes in plastic bottles. No more Jim Beam. Okay, few things. You probably ordered a big one. Big, really big, like 1.75 liter bottles of whiskey are super expensive to ship, and those glass bottles, they are way heavier. That being said, I like to limit my exposure to plastic personally, so I understand that. But you acting like Jim Beam isn't cheap bourbon? What are you talking about? Do you know what Jim Beam is? You're talking about Jim Beam White Label and acting as if it's not a cheap, low-tier, bottom-shelf whiskey, which it is. You can like that, but let's call a spade a spade. It's not great whiskey. That's a wild 1-star review. I don't understand it. Moving on to the next one. The next one comes from a user named Malfunk with a 1-star review titled Super Disappointing, written 3 years ago. And this bottle is about a Yellowstone Total Wine pick. And this is probably one of my favorite ones on the list. He said, whoever picked this one shouldn't be allowed to anymore. He said this tastes like it's maybe 1 to 3 years old, very grassy and earthy, just overall unpleasant. That sounds awful. That's like the thing I hate about some ryes is that they do have that like grassy, earthy note. I hate it. Very rarely does that note work for me. And I've had Yellowstone before, and I've actually liked some Yellowstone. In fact, I think the Yellowstone like the base level one is actually really good in cider, like during winter and stuff. That's wild. I've never had anything from Yellowstone that tasted grassy, but that's why single barrels are a thing. They vary. And now you know not to trust whoever picked this at Total Wine. That's my problem with big box retailers and buying barrel picks from them. I'll do it, of course, if it's something like an Eagle Rare that's like hard to get a pick of anyway, like I did with the Publix one, but you don't know who's doing that. Like it's way better to go to a liquor store like Parton Liquor that's ran by a guy who enjoys bourbon and does barrel picks with the Orlando Bourbon Gang, and join that in the description down below if you'd like to. We have 2 rare character picks coming, and they are both phenomenal, just so you know. But yeah, that's the big problem with doing these big box retailer barrel picks. And you don't know if they are even a whiskey person or if they know what they're talking about on any level. So just be careful when you're buying those barrel picks. Moving on to the next one. Next one here is from a username UQ. I'm sorry. I don't know. It's titled Don't Buy. This review is talking about Willet pot still. And he says, 1 star, don't buy, nothing to it. I've had water with more depth. LOL. And this one got 7 down likes. I don't know who those 7 people are. Willet pot still is dog shit whiskey. It is really bad. There's very few things that I will just be like, oh, you like that? Oh, kind of like, that's one of them for me. If you tell me that like your favorite bourbon is Willet pot still, I have a lot of questions. What else have you tried? Did you have a recent head injury? These are all questions I'll ask you if you tell me you like Willet pot still. Moving on to the next one. This next one is from Musty and Dusty, talking about Noah's Mill, another Willet product, with a 1-star review titled, As Good as Wet Dirt. If I could give this bourbon a 0, I would. If I had known what it was going to taste like, I would have gone outside, got a spoonful of dirt, and topped it with a cap of moss. Jesus. This got 10 down likes. I've never been a huge fan of much Willet stuff. There are exceptions. There are obviously like some stuff that's like really, really well done by them. But yeah, man, I'm kind of with you on this. I don't remember it being that egregious, but I know that I'm not a fan of it. So that's... That's a hilarious review. Moving on to the next one. This comes from Boston Bourbon with a 1-star review titled Shoe Leather, and he is talking about Garrison Brothers Small Batch. Pronounced Shoes Leather Nose, but not like Prada. More like Amazon brand that you have to go outside to defumigate. Had to toss it. Okay, so that's actually interesting to me that you're picking up leather on Garrison Brothers. I agree completely. But the difference for me is it doesn't smell like unpleasant shoe leather. And I know like the smell that you're describing, but for me, it just kind of hits my palate like actual leather. And I really like that when I get that on a bourbon or whiskey. That's a very funny review. I personally do like quite a bit. I like Garrison Brothers Small Batch. I'm actually a pretty big fan of Texas whiskey. So for me, I would rate that as a positive, not a negative, but I totally understand why. And this one is so funny to me because it is split 50-50, 5 likes, 5 dislikes on this. That is funny to me. So it is a divisive bourbon for sure, but I tend to like it. Moving on to the next one. This one comes from American Rye Som. I don't believe a sommelier is writing reviews on Total Wine's website, but whatever. He is talking about Sir Davis, and he says, worst pick of 2024. This makes Proper 12 look like Pappy. That's hilarious to me. Okay, I've had Sir Davis. I reviewed Sir Davis. I bought a bottle of it. It ain't that bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. It like I would drink Sir Davis over Proper 12 any day. Proper 12 is like dog shit swill to me. I'm not a fan of it at all. I've heard like they've done something different lately or something, and like you should revisit it. I'm not going to, at least unless I get... If this video gets 100 likes, I will buy and review Proper 12. But yeah, it's not that bad, but it ain't great either, if we're being honest. Moving on to the next one. This is from French Tea with a 1-star review called Really Bad Bourbon, and they are talking about Dickel 18. He says, I was utterly disappointed and I was utterly disappointed and poured the entire $500 bottle down the sink after a single shot. What an absolute waste of money. First off, you're an adult. Why are you doing shots? I'm going to judge you a little bit there. Secondly, it's George Dickel. I can't believe you didn't know, and I also can't believe you spent $500 on a bottle of George Dickel. That's crazy to me. Never in a million years would I buy that. I don't know if I would buy that if it was on sale for like $50. I think I'd still walk away. Dickel has that like mineral note to it, and it is predominant as hell on my palate. It's like the only thing I can taste. The only time I've ever appreciated Dickel was when I found out it was in Gypsy, because it made it like a sweet tart instead of a vitamin based on the blend that they had. And I thought it was actually really solid in that. But Dickel by itself, hard pass. No thank you. Especially for $500. Moving on to the last one. This last one here is my favorite one, and the one that I wanted to do a video based on this because this one was so funny. I was like, there has to be other ones that are this good. This is written by Matthew G, and it was from February 24th, 2025, and the title of it is 1 star. And I'm not going to tell you what bottle he's talking about till we get to it because it's in the title. He says, and this is just the title, if Old Forester birthday bourbon is a Michelin-starred meal, Chestnut Farms is the gas station sushi that keeps you up at night wondering where it all went wrong. Oh, shit. It's so funny to me. Todd from Total Wine, you smooth-talking charlatan, you got me. You sold me Chestnut Farms like it was the second coming of Buffalo Trace's antique collection, but what I actually got was the liquid equivalent of broken dreams and melted plastic. Ugh. The rich caramel and oak you promised, more like stale circus peanuts and a whiff of regret. I swear I detected notes of wet cardboard, expired cinnamon, and the faint essence of a tire fire behind a Cracker Barrel. Jesus Christ, we need to get that guy a book. I want this guy to be reviewing every whiskey, especially bad ones, because I got some I'd send him. That'd be funny. If you know that person, if that person is out there or sees this, Matthew G, bro, hit me up. I want you to write some whiskey reviews. Comment down below. Let me know what whiskey you would give a 1-star review to. While you're down there, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next one. Until then, cheers. A big thank you to all the Patreon supporters you see on screen right now.